Hello everyone. Before we start, please make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment with your location and the time you are watching. That way, YouTube would keep showing you videos like this. So let's begin. The crash came from upstairs. Maya's fork froze halfway to her mouth, marinara sauce dripping back onto her plate. She sat alone at the kitchen table, the house silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator. Her parents wouldn't be back from their anniversary trip until Sunday night, 2 more days. She convinced them she was old enough at 17 to handle a weekend alone. Now, as she stared at the ceiling, she wondered if she'd been wrong. The sound had been unmistakable, something heavy falling or being thrown. She set down her fork and listened. Nothing. The old colonial house settled and creaked on windy nights, but tonight the air outside was perfectly still. Through the kitchen window, she could see the moon hanging fat and yellow over the backyard, casting long shadows across the lawn. Maya stood slowly, her chair scraping against the tile. "Hello." Her voice sounded small, foolish. She was alone. She knew she was alone. She'd locked every door herself after her parents left that morning, had checked twice because her mother insisted. Another sound, softer this time, a sliding, dragging noise from the hallway above. Her phone sat on the counter. She grabbed it, thumbs hovering over the emergency call button. But what would she say? That her house made a noise. The police would think she was a stupid kid who couldn't handle being alone for one night. The stairs creaked as she climbed them, each step a small act of courage. She turned on every light downstairs before eating, but the second floor stretched dark before her. Her hand found the switch, and the hallway blazed alive. 6 doors all closed. Her room, her parents' room, the guest room, the bathroom, the office, and the door to the attic. The attic door stood open. Maya's breath caught. She'd been up there that afternoon, looking for an old photo album her mother wanted. She remembered closing the door, remembered the satisfying click of the latch. Now it gaped wide, showing nothing but darkness and the bottom steps of the steep staircase. "This is stupid," she whispered. "Old houses, old doors. They didn't latch properly sometimes." Her father complained about it constantly. She walked toward the attic, phone clutched in her hand. The darkness at the top of those stairs seemed thicker than ordinary shadow, as if something solid blocked the light. She reached for the string that turned on the attic bulb, but stopped. Something was breathing up there. Not the whistle of wind through gaps in the roof. Not the creak of settling wood. Breathing. Slow and deliberate. The sound of lungs expanding and contracting. Maya backed away. Her heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her throat. She grabbed the attic door and slammed it shut, turned the lock her father had installed last year. The breathing stopped. She stood frozen, listening. Silence pressed against her eardrums. Then, so soft she almost missed it, a scratch. Fingernails on wood, on the other side of the door. Scratching down, down, as if whatever was up there was trying to dig through. Maya ran. She flew down the stairs, taking them 3 at a time, nearly falling. In the kitchen, she snatched her keys from the counter. She would go to Sarah's house, or drive to the police station, or sit in her car until her parents came home. Anything but stay in this house with that thing in the attic. Her hand closed on the front door handle. It wouldn't turn. She yanked harder, panic rising. The deadbolt was unlocked. She could see it. But the handle refused to move, as if someone on the other side held it fast. She tried the back door. Same thing. Every window on the first floor was locked from the inside. The kind of locks that needed a key she didn't have. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "These old locks are for security, sweetie. Can't have burglars just breaking a window and reaching through." She was trapped. Maya's phone lit up with a text. "Sarah, still coming over tomorrow?" Her thumbs shook as she typed. "Something wrong at house. Doors won't open. Can you?" The phone went dark. Dead. She stared at the black screen. She'd charged it that afternoon. It had been at 90%. Footsteps creaked on the floor above. Slow, measured steps, walking from the attic door toward the stairs. Maya backed into the kitchen, eyes on the hallway. The lights flickered once, twice. In the darkness between flickers, she saw something at the top of the stairs. A shape, tall and impossibly thin, bent at wrong angles like a body that had been broken and poorly reassembled. The light steadied. The hallway was empty. She grabbed a knife from the block on the counter. Her hands trembled so badly the blade rattled against the others. The footsteps continued, reaching the top of the stairs, beginning to descend. She could see it now, coming down step by step, not walking, but moving in a way that hurt to watch. Its limbs bent backward, fingers too long, neck twisted so its head hung upside down. It wore the shape of a person the way a child might wear an adult's coat. Everything wrong, nothing fitting. Its face was the worst, pale and slack, features blurred as if seen through water. But the eyes were sharp, fixed on her. Maya ran to the basement door, yanked it open, and plunged down into darkness. She slammed the door behind her and fumbled for a lock that wasn't there. The basement had always been her least favorite place in the house, damp and full of shadows, but now it was sanctuary. She crouched behind the old furnace, knife gripped in both hands. Above her, the footsteps stopped. She heard the basement door open with a long, drawn-out creak. It was coming down. Each step groaned under its weight. She could hear its breathing again, closer now, wet and rattling like lungs filled with fluid. The smell hit her, thick and sweet, like meat left too long in the sun. Maya pressed herself against the wall. In the dim light from a high window, she could see the furnace, her father's workbench, boxes of Christmas decorations. The stairs ended just around the corner. It would see her the moment it reached the bottom. The breathing stopped. She waited, muscles locked. Nothing. Had it gone back up? Was it waiting for her? Then she heard it. Not from the stairs. From behind her. Breathing. Right behind her. Maya spun, knife raised. The basement was empty. But the breathing continued, circling her now. She turned again, but saw nothing. The sound moved around the room, sometimes close enough to feel the exhalation on her neck, sometimes far in the corners. What do you want? Her voice cracked. What are you? The breathing stopped. In the silence that followed, she heard something worse. Whispering. Multiple voices, overlapping, speaking in a language she didn't know, but somehow understood. Alone. Home alone. No one coming. No one hearing. Alone. No. She shook her head. My parents. They'll be home. They'll. Sunday night. 2 days. So much time. So much time to play. The light bulb above the workbench exploded. Glass rained down. In the darkness, shapes moved. She saw them in the corner of her vision, vanishing when she tried to look directly. Dozens of them, pressed against the walls, hanging from the ceiling. Watching. Maya bolted for the stairs. Something grabbed her ankle, and she fell hard, knife skittering away. The hand on her ankle was cold, fingers wrapping all the way around like a shackle. She kicked and felt her heel connect with something soft that gave way like rotten fruit. The grip released. She scrambled up the stairs on hands and knees, burst through the door into the kitchen. The lights were off. All of them. Every light in the house had gone dark. In the darkness, things moved. She heard them sliding along walls, scratching at floors, breathing their wet, rattling breaths. They were everywhere. Maya ran blindly through the house, hands outstretched. She crashed into furniture, bounced off walls. Her shin cracked against the coffee table, and she gasped in pain, but didn't stop. She had to find light. Had to see. Her mother's craft room. There were candles there. She felt along the walls until she found the door, stumbled inside. Her hands found the desk, swept across it until she touched wax. A lighter. There had to be a lighter, breathing behind her. So close. Her fingers closed on the lighter. She flicked it, and flame bloomed. In its small circle of light, she saw the thing standing in the doorway. Up close it was worse. Its skin hung loose on its frame, translucent enough to show the dark shapes of organs beneath. Its mouth opened too wide, revealing not teeth, but more mouths, smaller and smaller, spiraling down into its throat. The eyes that watched her held nothing human. They were holes filled with a darkness that moved. Please. Maya's voice was a whisper. Please, I don't understand. What did I do? The thing's head tilted slowly to the right, bones cracking. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, inside her head and outside it. Nothing. You did nothing. You were simply alone. But why? Why me? The house remembers. The house is hungry. You fed it with your fear when you were small, when you heard sounds in the night and hid under covers. It grew strong on your nightmares. Now it wants more. It wants everything. Maya remembered. She'd been afraid in this house as a child, terrified of the dark spaces and creaking sounds. Her parents had told her it was imagination, that old houses were noisy. She'd forced herself to be brave, to grow out of fear. But fear didn't disappear. It soaked into the walls. It waited. "I won't give you more." She stood straighter, trying to control her shaking. "I won't." The thing that wasn't really a thing, the house wearing a shape, laughed. The sound echoed from every room, every corner. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with it. "You already are." The flame went out. In the darkness, hands grabbed her. Dozens of them, hundreds, all cold and wrong. They pulled her down, dragged her across the floor. She screamed and fought, but they were too strong. They pulled her toward the basement door, toward the stairs, down into darkness that had no bottom. But something in Maya refused to surrender. A core of stubborn anger that had nothing to do with bravery and everything to do with rage. She'd convinced her parents she was old enough to be alone. She'd been excited to have the house to herself, to prove she was grown up. And this thing, this violation, was trying to take that from her. She wasn't a frightened child anymore. Maya stopped fighting the hands. Instead, she let them pull her, gathering her strength. When they reached the basement stairs, she grabbed the railing and held on with everything she had. The hands yanked harder, trying to pull her free. "No." Her voice was steady now. "This is my house. Not yours. Mine." The pulling stopped. The hands released her. She stood in the darkness and felt the house holding its breath. She remembered something her grandmother had told her before she died. A strange conversation about old places and the things that lived in them. "Fear feeds them," her grandmother had said. "But so does anger and love and joy. Everything you feel. The question is, what do you want to feed?" Maya thought of every good memory in this house. Christmas mornings. Her father teaching her to ride a bike in the driveway. Her mother singing while cooking dinner. Birthday parties and ordinary Tuesdays. Laughter and safety and home. She fed those memories into the darkness. Deliberately. Powerfully. Light bloomed around her. Not from any bulb or candle, but from within the walls themselves. Warm and golden, like sunlight. The shadows recoiled, hissing. The things that had taken shape from fear began to dissolve, melting back into the corners and cracks where they'd hidden. The house shuddered. The tall thing that had chased her let out a sound like wind through a broken window and collapsed into nothing but dust and bad dreams. The lights came on. Every light in the house, blazing. Maya stood in the kitchen, breathing hard. Her phone lay on the floor, screen cracked but glowing. 70% battery. She tried the front door. It opened easily. Outside, the night was calm and quiet. The moon still hung yellow in the sky. She could hear crickets, a distant dog barking. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. Maya stepped back inside and closed the door. Locked it. This was her house. She'd claimed it, fed it something better than fear. Whatever had been here, whatever had tried to take her, was gone. She felt its absence like the relief after a fever breaks. She went upstairs, opened the attic door. The space beyond was just an attic, dust and boxes and old furniture. She closed it again, but didn't lock it. There was no need. In the kitchen, she reheated her pasta and ate standing up. Her hands still shook, but less now. By the time she finished eating, they were steady. That night, she slept in her own bed with the door open and the hall light on. Not because she was afraid, but because she liked it that way. She dreamed of ordinary things, school and friends, and the weekend stretching ahead. When her parents came home Sunday night, they found her reading on the couch. "How was your weekend alone?" her mother asked, setting down suitcases. Maya smiled. "Educational. Any problems?" "Nothing I couldn't handle." Her father ruffled her hair. "That's my girl. I told you you were old enough." That night, Maya lay in bed and listened to the house settle around her. The small creaks and groans she'd known her whole life. But now she heard something else beneath them. A kind of contentment, as if the house itself was satisfied. She'd fed it well. But as she drifted towards sleep, a small part of her wondered what would happen when that feeding wasn't enough. When the house grew hungry again. When the walls remembered that fear, after all, was the richest meal. From somewhere deep in the foundation, something whispered. Not words exactly, but a feeling pressed in her thoughts. Soon, Maya's eyes opened in the dark. She stared at the ceiling, listening. The house breathed around her, and she understood with cold certainty that her victory had been temporary. A reprieve, not an ending. Whatever lived in the walls, whatever the house had become, it was patient. It could wait. It had waited decades before she was born, would wait decades after she left. But it would be hungry again. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, Maya felt something harder and sharper taking root in her chest. If the house wanted fear, she would starve it. If it wanted to fight, she would be ready. She closed her eyes and forced her breathing to slow. Sleep came eventually, but it was shallow and restless, full of dreams about shadows that moved wrong and walls that pulsed like flesh. In the morning, everything seemed normal. Sunlight streamed through her windows. She heard her parents moving around downstairs, the comforting sounds of breakfast being made. But when she walked past the attic door, she felt cold air seeping through the cracks. The house hadn't forgotten. Neither had she. And in the space between those two rememberings, something new was growing. Not fear, and not quite courage. Something darker and more complicated, born from the understanding that some battles weren't meant to be won, only survived, night after night, until the house finally decided to let you go. Or until it didn't. Before you go, if this story made your heart race, if you checked over your shoulder, even once while reading, then you understand, some houses remember, some walls listen. And right now, as you sit in your own home, have you noticed how quiet it's gotten? How the shadows in the corner seem just a little deeper than they should be? Like this story, if you survived reading it with the lights on, you'll need the courage for what comes next. Subscribe so you never miss a story, because the next one might be about the thing that's been living in your walls. The thing that only comes out when you're alone. The thing that's been waiting for you to notice it. And trust me, you don't want to be alone when you finally do. The house is always watching.